Check me out.
Yeah. Hey there, podcast listening people. What's going on today?
Yeah.
How are you? Hope it's going very well. Appreciate you listening into this. Please do us this tiny favor for bringing you this podcast. Give us a review wherever you're listening and make sure you subscribe for other episodes and share with your friends, share with your family, share with your people, because you know that they're going to love this. You know that they need this information and insight. My name's Connor Doobie and I'm your host each and every Mile High Mentors episode to bring you all this information, insights, resources, tools, tips, tricks, and stories from the local community here in Colorado. Influencers, entrepreneurs, leaders, mentors, coaches, subject matter experts. And we have a really fun show today. First show in our brand new studio here in the Rhino area. We just upgraded, got a new studio. We've been doing a remote podcast for a while. We started in a studio, we went remote for a little while, and now we're back in a really exciting 4-mic studio and have our first guest who were gracious enough to break in the new studio with us. It was a lot of fun. Stu and Kate Crowell came by the studio to share their story on being a power couple, building businesses together. Kate is a nutritional influencer here in Colorado and Denver, and her husband Stu is a real estate person who is killing it, and also co-founder of Denver Gents. If you remember, we had Delroy on the podcast, so he is Delroy's business partner with Denver Gents. The two of them together have created a lot of success. They're young, but they've created a lot of success together, not only with their health, their relationships, but with their business as well. And I was, if you got even half away from what I did, I know that this podcast episode is going to be really valuable for you and really useful for you. So before we dive in, before we get there real quick, if you're interested in partnering with Mile High Mentors, you have a guest recommendation for us, you want to partner up, sponsor the show, collaborate in one way or another, something we're always open and interested in, make sure that you send us an email, milehighmentors at gmail.com, milehighmentors@gmail.com. You can also send us a message, slide on in to the DMs, as they say. Send us a message wherever you find us on social media. And you can also message me directly if you'd like. Connor Doobie. I'm on all the social media platforms. Same with Mile High Mentors. We're on all the platforms. So let's see what we can do. If we want to, cross-pollinate audiences or collab in one way or another, we have some really great stuff that we are working on and building for the community here in Colorado. All right, guys. Without further ado, please give it up for goodness gracious, for Kate and Stu Crowell on the Mile High Mentors podcast. Dive right in. We were talking about your favorite part. I'll ask you and then I'll ask you, what's your favorite part about Colorado?
I don't know. There's so many things that I love about being here, from the people, probably the people. I'll just say that. I think there's just a much better work-life balance from where Stu and I are from, like DC area. We're not from there, but we lived there and then moved here. And so I think people are just happier. Work-life balance is better. We've got the best friends that we've ever had. People just are great.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. People on the East Coast, they talk about work first, and people in Colorado talk about lifestyle first. And so you can automatically connect to people in a more authentic way here in Colorado. That's how I feel coming from the East. Yeah.
And you two met out East?
We did, yeah. I ran track. She was a pole vaulter at our school, at our university out in Northern Virginia.
Nice. Any intention on politics living out there in DC?
Hell no.
No?
Yeah, everyone gets into politics or government contracting, and there's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't for us, though. We knew we weren't going to have any part or parcel of any of that.
Yeah. Tell us more about you two meeting.
I don't know. We both did track. Stu and I knew each other freshman year of college, but we didn't really start like talking and dating until sophomore year, which is, I always say, a good thing because we were both just like running around being crazy freshman year. Probably me more so than Stu. Just because the pole vaulters, like the group that I was with on the track team was just like a lot more wild than the distance runners, I think. Maybe not, I mean,
pretty much.
Respectively. But because we just, I don't know. I mean, you have to be crazy to pole vault, right? So you just get a lot of like really intense people that are like up for whatever all the time. And so we would just party like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And that was just like how freshman year started out, just like really intense. But yeah, Stu and I started talking sophomore year. Stu had an Achilles injury and he was doing all of these. I would make fun of him and tell him he was doing all these like girly exercises, but they were like rehab exercises. And
rehab exercises.
Yeah.
Working on that butt.
Literally though.
Well, it's fantastic, just so you know.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
that. Put a lot of work, years of work.
And then Denver Gents was born. No.
Right.
But yeah, Stu, I mean, I just thought he was cute and just chat with him. I don't know, because there was a lot of people on the team that didn't talk to each other, and like the multis would always chat with one another and chat with other people on the team, and because it felt kind of segregated, like the distance runners over here and the sprinters over here, and so my group kind of chatted with everyone. And I don't know, I was like, this guy's pretty cute, pretty cool. I'll make fun of him for doing these girly exercises. And then
Done.
I don't know, we just started talking in the field house because I would wrap up my practice at the time that Stu was like getting into his girly exercises, and so gave us some time to chat.
Yep.
But I don't know, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't. You covered it all.
That's it. Oh, she nailed it down without any of your input.
We dated through college and then got engaged when I was in grad school. I went from undergrad to grad school, same college and everything like that. So once we started dating, that was it. And now we actually got married in Denver after living here for about a year. So 2017 in July we got married, and it had been, just kind of the book was written. Once we got together, it was game on. So
yeah, well, just so people have some context, I'm very glad we got to do this because you two have built very successful businesses together and kind of in and around each other, I guess, in a way. And your story is really interesting. I think people would benefit from not only the following that you both have built together, which is really impressive, but also the impact that you've been able to have upon a lot of people. We talked about this the other day. What did you go to school for originally?
My undergrad was environmental studies, and then I got a master's in business administration, also from George Mason. So we had like this 1-year program, and I was injured a lot through track and cross country. So I redshirted. I had eligibility to come back and run. So I continued my scholarship and was able to go to grad school. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone. I didn't really have an intention to get another degree.
And when did you transition to real estate?
Once we moved out here, the very brief story on it is, I was going down to corporate America lane and thought I'd be in kind of a management role or consulting role. And then real estate kind of found me after that was not the door I was meant to go down. So
how'd you feel about that?
I felt great about it. I mean, Stu, when we moved out here, there was kind of like he had all the ins to all these really great jobs and knew all the right people and had the right resume and top of his class and student athlete and worked for a Fortune 500 company. And so we thought it was pretty foolproof that he was going to have like 5 really great job offers to pick from. And they were really, lowball offers or just didn't get it. And so that was kind of like, oh shit. And so I remember one day vividly sitting down, and for some reason this just like popped in my mind. I was like, why don't you, instead of worrying about what kind of job you want, what career you want, why don't you write down like the top 5 things you want to be able to exercise in your career and in your job day to day? What would that look like? And so Stu wrote down like these 5 things. And I think it was like the harder you work, I mean, what were they? Do you remember what they were?
Yeah, I think it was, I like a lot of autonomy over what I do, and I like to interact with people constantly. So, I want to control my income as well. Like, I don't want people to tell me you're on a certain salary and then I get it just doesn't work for me. And I don't work that way because I'm a very hard worker. So, yeah, and one of many blessings of being with someone like Kate is she knows how to push me the right way. She knows how my mind works and what I need to do in order to unlock, get out of my own way, right? Because I had put up these, I almost an identity thing where you need to be in corporate America because that's what you're groomed to do, and you're a failure unless you do that. And so real estate felt extremely uncomfortable to me. And as an identity, not because of income or because of anything, it just as a person. Like, am I going to be a real estate agent? What? And so writing those things down, I was like, wow, this is everything that a realtor is. So,
yeah. I mean, I was pumped. I was just happy that Stu found something that made him excited. He was able to exercise all those things that he wanted to do. And it honestly just fell together so seamlessly. It was kind of crazy. And we've had a lot of things like that happen in our lives where you kind of are swimming against the current for a period of time and then you just let that go and just listen to that quiet little voice inside. And you're like, oh, this is actually taking me to a really powerful place that I should probably pay attention to. And so I think Stu and I both, that's a big part of our own individual lives and our own individual journeys, but we also recognize that, I think, in each other now after being together going on 8 years, which is crazy. But we just...
Especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we just know how to push each other. And I was really excited that Stu got into real estate and that it just lit him up. It just made him super excited. I mean, it was kind of rough at first, I think. Stu definitely...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, rough in a handful of different ways, but in terms of what Stu was just talking about with his identity, that was a really hard thing to push through for the first probably 6 to 8 months. I was like, okay, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this.
Yep.
So it was just, that was intense. And then just building businesses are intense, especially real estate. And it's so competitive and crazy out here right now. So it's been a lot, but Stu's been crushing it. So
it's been fun.
And what was your lead up to where you are right now?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. I mean, I guess in a nutshell, we kind of talked about this the other day on the phone, but went into college undecided, just wanted to help people, just wanted to work with people, ended up falling into global public health, which took me to Bangladesh, and got to see nutrition function in an acute setting, was dealing with my own health issues that holistic nutrition was just the only answer. I used to think holistic nutrition was a bunch of bullshit, which is kind of
And you didn't go to
crazy.
school for nutrition either.
I minored in nutrition.
Or minored in, okay.
Yeah, so I majored in global public health, minored in nutrition.
Which didn't mean much for what you do now. Let's just throw that out there.
I mean, more so, my undergrad in nutrition, that minor kind of showed me what I didn't want to do with nutrition, because I had a lot of very
Really?
old school RD professors that were just there's no difference between organic and conventional, and just saying a bunch of just very old science about nutrition. And I was just kind of starting to learn about the paleo movement and tons of different things happening. And I was working with someone who was kind of in that mindset of supporting the ancestral build of the body and just supporting the body holistically. And I was like, this is crazy. How are these professors saying this? And I would challenge them and they wouldn't have answers. And that's when I really started questioning everything. But yeah, I mean, I was healing myself holistically, went to Bangladesh, got to see nutrition in an acute setting. So kind of looking at both sides of that coin, I knew that I wanted to do nutrition. It just seemed like the underlying issue that so many people dealt with. It's preventative. It's also healing and therapeutic, and is supportive of treatment that you'd be doing with a doctor at any point with anything. It's the building blocks of, I think, the foundation of everyone's health, whether they realize it or not. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where everything started, I guess. And then my business, yeah, I don't know. I always knew that I wanted to have my own business. I grew up with a father as an entrepreneur. I've always hated working for other people. Ever since I was super, super little, I was just very outspoken. I kind of had the idea of how I wanted things to be, even when I was 5. There's home videos where I'm like, oh God, this is embarrassing. I'm such a just know-it-all little kid. But yeah, I think I just kind of grew up with that.
She's still like that?
Yeah.
But I'm mindful of it now. Like I've learned.
It's a part of your personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
So your dad was an entrepreneur, and that was somewhat of a inspiration for you going into entrepreneurship. And your family?
Entrepreneurial as well.
Both of them?
Both of us.
I grew up, my dad owned a specialty running shoe store. So I was selling shoes by the time I was 8.
Slanging shoes,
Slanging
huh?
kicks. Slanging kicks.
Slanging kicks, like slanging houses.
Yep. It's just a different product now, but that's so I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family, business oriented.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's
Same.
awesome.
Same stuff. Well, my dad's a financial advisor. And Stu and I have both just watched our dads just kind of go from not much to successful businesses. And I don't think, like, Stu and I have talked about this, but when you're young, you don't really realize that. Like, I don't remember the water getting shut off and, like, my parents being super close on mortgage payments and crazy stuff like that. Like, they'll talk about it now. And if I think real hard, I guess it's like, we didn't have much, but just growing up and watching my dad just work his ass off, but also still being a really great father, always being around, always being home for dinner. Like, he just kind of did it all. And I think that was just, definitely an inspiration. And also I just was like, I want to have my own thing. And I knew going through college and after college, starting my own business, I just had such a great resource in Stu's dad and in my dad. And we just had a lot of really great people surrounding us that, I would encourage anyone that if they're thinking of starting their own business to just look around them, because there's so many helpful people. Of course, we're lucky that we have fathers that were entrepreneurs, but there's also tons of people outside of family that have been really supportive and really, really helpful in the whole process for us too.
Or are there people you look to now that kind of work with both of you in building your businesses, or do you both kind of have your own separate mentors that you consolidate with?
It's a good question. I think the mentorship we get together comes from more from honestly friends. Like you are who you surround yourself with, right? Kind of that perennial rule. And we're pretty intentional with who we spend time with out like in a social setting and everything, and not to, not out of arrogance or anything. We always want to be learning and growing and everything. And if we're not being challenged by our peers, like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like time well spent to either of us. So we get a lot of that just from friends and people who are kind of in this community and doing stuff that we're doing and idea sharing. But individually, we definitely have vastly different mentors. And I think there's very little overlap at this point with like who helps Caitlin on a practical sense with her business and who helps me on a practical sense in my business.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. So, were you also very nutritional focused or like very health conscious as well? Or did Kate kind of bring that into the relationship?
So here's what's funny, and she already knows what I'm going to say, but I actually was the one who was more into the nutritional stuff when we started dating, and she was absolutely on board, but she didn't know too much. I
wasn't absolutely on board. I was still eating Pop-Tarts and tons of shit.
Yeah, I guess you did have a little hurdle there to
I had like a two-year hurdle.
So I had health challenges as a kid, and my mom had a lot of health challenges growing up. When I was growing up, not when she was growing up, including breast cancer and a heart attack within a 3-year span. And so we as a family pivoted our entire idea around food and health when I was an early teenager. So by the time I was 16, I had cut out gluten. And this was at a time when no one, like, you didn't know what gluten was. I mean, you had to go to a restaurant and basically educate the wait staff on, I can't have this. Can you help me out here? That kind of thing. All your meals are from scratch for the most part. So I brought that into college. I had done that for years and ate that way. And
this was for a health reason?
This was for health reasons, and just genetically, I knew it'd be better for me in the long term. And so as a kid, I kind of made that choice. And then when Kate and I met, she was starting to get involved in all of that. She was very interested in nutrition, and then we both have dialed it in over time. And now, I mean, she's the oracle of wisdom over here. I know nothing compared to her in the nutritional sense now.
You know a lot.
So, yeah, it's definitely been a part of our relationship since the get-go, though.
Right. Well, and I've talked about this over and over and over again on this podcast and had various guests, is that I think at the end of the day, no matter what, health is everything. Like there's absolutely nothing you can build without your health.
Definitely. Health comes first.
Right.
Absolutely.
Who was it? Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs died. Is that Steve Jobs?
Yeah.
He did die.
Okay. Dude, he would have given all of his money away in order to be able to be alive.
Right. I've heard that.
You can have
as well.
all the success in the world, but health is really important. So I like highlighting folks like you who talk about it a lot, and you have a pretty sizable audience and share it out, and you're influencing people with this information. So I'm curious to hear from you, Kate. Like where do you educate yourself, and what areas do you focus on in that particular arena?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of all across the board, to be honest. I think I took a huge interest in gut health and hormone health and adrenal health, just kind of right off the bat, because those were the issues that I was struggling with. And I mean, now, I went through the NTP program. The Nutritional Therapy Association puts on like the NTP and the NTC program. I chose the practitioner route. And after that, just wrapped up some continuing education and restorative wellness solutions. It's all about in-depth, just continuing into digestive health even more. So looking at lab testing, food sensitivity testing, GI map testing. So looking at, parasites, microbial balance of the gut, healthy to unhealthy bacterial ratios, all sorts of stuff. And then, I mean, I really like to nerd out on new research. So I look at a lot of, PubMed and other different things that are coming up in terms of, I mean, gut health is blowing up right now. And that is just such a fascinating topic to me. So, I mean, continuing education is huge just because I have worked with practitioners before, and I'm sure other people have been to doctors before where they're just pretty old school, and you're like, wow, okay, I feel like I went back in time, like there's new things going on that they're not addressing, and I have experienced that. And so I always have that in the back of my mind that I never want to be that person that someone comes to me and is like, hey, do you know about this? And I don't know anything about it. Like I at least, of course there's things that I don't know. I don't know everything. But I like to just read as much as I can, get into new research as much as I can, and be on top of continuing education so that I can just meet my clients where they really need to be met with is just like really complicated stuff oftentimes. So, yeah.
And why gut? Like why? Well, I guess what's new about that we're kind of starting to understand from a health perspective.
So the biggest thing, I mean, Hippocrates said, forever ago in AD, whenever that was 100 AD. 80, I don't know. 80 something. Yeah. But he, said that all disease starts in the gut, and the gut health is like the most important, is kind of, the gist of it. And so for me, I think it's just that, the more research that comes out, the more is validated that everything depends upon your body's ability to break down nutrients. So if we think about, you could be eating the most perfect diet, the most expensive supplements, whatever that would look like for you. If your body is not capable of properly breaking down, utilizing, and assimilating those nutrients, it doesn't matter. And if you have a bad environment in your gut that is allowing bacteria to proliferate or gut microbial imbalances to happen, there's all of these implications coming up in research now about systemic inflammation, autoimmunity, skin conditions, Alzheimer's, inflammation of the brain. Like it's literally, gut health is connected to everything. And I think it's a pretty obvious thing when you understand how the digestive system functions, but conventional medicine is wanting that research and those cold hard numbers and science to back all those claims up that holistic health has believed for so long. And so it's really cool to watch that all come to fruition. And it's also just from a practical perspective of working with so many clients. I've worked with over probably 200 clients in the last 2 to 3 years. And it, like everyone, we always will start with digestion at some capacity because everyone's got some sort of digestive issue going on. Whether they know it or not. Everyone that I've worked with. And I would probably argue everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
No one's got perfect digestion. Definitely not.
Just because of the standard American diet?
Definitely. I mean, that's a huge piece of it. I mean, it gets complicated when you look back historically at, like World War II and the chemicals that we use with chemical warfare, and then that got converted into a lot of the pesticides that we use, and we look at the industrialization era and trying to create more food for more people and making it more convenient,
right,
so that women could do more, so that they weren't cooking all the time, and so that we could get food to troops overseas so it wouldn't spoil. So there's all these historical things that kind of back all of that up. to, get us to where we're at with the modern diet. And so, I mean, there's a lot of different implications, but we, genetically are not very different than cavemen. It's less than 1%, I believe, that we are identical to cavemen. And like when
just because of the span of time.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at genetics from like cavemen to Homo sapiens, there's not a big genetic difference. And the reason why I bring that up is because the world has changed so drastically from that time when we were hunters and gatherers. And the world is so different, but our bodies are not really created for it. We're not created to eat tons of chemicals and to be, 0 to 100 every single day. Our adrenals aren't built for that. Our blood sugar regulation systems aren't built for that. Our digestion can't handle these really chronic, intense influx of chemicals from our food and from our topical lotions and sunscreen and, everything that we put on our bodies and the air that we breathe. And it's just everything is so different now. And so it's kind of hard to just kind of slip under cover and just think that you just will passively be really healthy. I think it has to be an intentional
Even
thing.
if you think you're eating healthy, because I think they're finding a lot of the big health, and especially vegans and vegetarians too, there's a lot of Roundup in the vegetables is one of the key things that's like been damaging our guts over the years.
Yeah, glyphosate. That's that's like the technical term of Roundup is like just glyphosate. And I mean, that affects everyone. I mean, it'll especially affect people that are vegan and vegetarian, and that's like their biggest part of their diet, obviously. But I mean, we eat tons of fruits and vegetables too, but we also eat a lot of meat. And animal products are super important too, because animals are eating, we are what the animals are eating. So if they're being fed what they shouldn't be, and it's corn, and then they're sick, and then they need antibiotics so that they're healthy, and then they're killed early. And, conventional meat is a whole other thing. But I think, our whole food system's pretty jacked up. So, and you can get crazy with stuff. I remember when I graduated NTP, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to like build a garden and like have our own organic animals that are shitting so we can put it in the soil so that the soil's organic. Like, you can get really wild. And I think that's what...
I have a dog and you live in Rhino and you have a little windowsill.
Yeah.
Right.
Garden. Exactly. That works, right?
We didn't exactly go the commune route.
Maybe someday. That's
right.
why you're in real estate, right? You're just scoping out the right spot.
Exactly. It's all in building towards the commune.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, it's intense. I mean, you can get crazy with it. I think the one thing that I'm really grateful for in working with a lot of people up to this point is that you start to realize that you have to be practical, and everyone's body is different and everyone's financial status is different, and you have to meet them where they're at, and you have to approach yourself with that same grace and love and appreciation. I mean, there's a fine line between eating really healthy and then, kind of stepping into that more like obsessive, unhealthy relationship with food and health. So I think...
What do you mean by that?
In terms of like disordered eating, orthorexia, things like that, where like you're so worried about what you're eating and putting into your body that you just start to have a very unhealthy relationship with food and with your own body because you're like so hyper crazy about everything that you're eating and drinking.
And a lot of those, if I can just jump in, a lot of those, issues like that quote, comparison is the thief of joy, right? We talk about how comparison can be the thief of your health too, because if you're, on a different kind of trajectory than your neighbor, but your neighbor is, working out all the time and seems to have it together and do the, you're going to compare yourself to who you're around, just like with any other facet of life. And health is so individual. I mean, it's so specific to you and your family and your surroundings and your environment and your knowledge. So we're all on our own individual health journey, and the best clients Kate have are the ones who are able to say, or the most successful rather in their health journeys are the ones who are able to say, very clearly, like, I'm going to do this for me, and I'm going to make this a lifestyle change, and I'm going to just listen and kind of shut up and do what I'm told to do because, the data is telling me so.
You scare the shit out of your clients, don't you?
No, I actually, I was just going to say I kind of disagree with that. I mean, I agree with most of that, but I don't like tell them what to do. I mean, a lot of
No, but it's very much like they take ownership of it. And that's the point I'm trying to drive home.
They have to learn how their own bodies function because it is so individual. But yes, but maybe I scare the shit out of my clients. I've heard I'm really intimidating by a lot of people, which kind of makes me sad. Because I don't ever want people to feel like they're intimidated by me, but I get that a decent amount. So hopefully my clients aren't intimidated by me.
Right.
I mean, maybe they are, but after the first chat, hopefully it's, good to go.
Now, I know we wanted to talk business and you two building businesses together and all that, I did just have one other kind of question on the health side, because I'm fascinated by this. I have a lot of friends that they feel like there's a lot of noise out there, right? I mean,
totally.
It's so hard to know what to filter through. I'm lucky enough that I grew up kind of like you, like I grew up around a very health conscious family, and I had health issues very early on. So I've been fascinated by that, studied that for years on my own, because it's really important. What are your thoughts on, because there's a lot in Denver, a lot of vegetarians and vegans. Is that a feasible full-time, realistically? Because you're talking about we're like, what, 0.1 or 1% from caveman. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, just to right off the bat, to each their own. And like we were saying, everyone is bio-individual. I like to think of, there's a lot of thoughts on this, and I'll try to put it into a nutshell. But in terms of different diets and cutting out mass groups of food or nutrients or whatever, there's benefit to doing that therapeutically for a period of time. So for example, if someone has cancer, or if they have Lyme's disease, or they have something that their body is really trying to fight off, heavy proteins like animal protein probably aren't the best. And a plant-based diet, vegan, vegetarian diet would probably be more beneficial therapeutically for that period of time while that person is healing. And if that ends up being their whole life, then that is ideally how that person should be eating for a long period of time. But there's also a lot of people that are vegan, vegetarian that do it by choice, or do it because they think they'll lose weight, or because it's trendy, or for whatever other kind of reason. That I've seen this happen again and again. If you're not very intentional with the nutrients that you're missing from animal proteins, like vitamin B12 is probably the most popular that people are aware of, but there's plenty of other things that show up in deficiencies of a plant-based or vegan diet that people need to be aware of. And if you're not intentional with that, you can miss out on a lot of different things. And so I think it's, if you are going to go that route for whatever your choice is, which, all valid, all totally capable of making your own decisions with nutrition. But I think that
just look at the long-term implications of it potentially.
It's got to be intentional. And it's also, whatever makes your body feel best. I've had a lot of clients that come to me that are dealing with hormonal imbalances, acne, horrible energy, and they're just like dragging, and will transition into animal proteins if they're open to it, or animal products. Things
they
like
come to you
collagen.
as vegans or vegetarian.
Yeah, and they need to transition out of that. And it's not something that I'm telling them you need to do this, but it's like, hey, you will most likely, like, your hormones will balance, all these other things that you're trying to achieve will likely happen if we can slowly start to reintroduce some animal products, at least collagen, or some other types of animal proteins, and 9 times out of 10, it's a beneficial thing to do.
Right. And I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by that, because there's all these fad diets. You got the keto diet and the paleo diet and vegetarian, vegan. There's so many different paths to go down. And I think that people look at those as what you mentioned, like, it's, this is it. This is all I'm doing all the time. And like, I've heard from other nutritional experts that if you can find something that's sustainable in the long term, that's best for you. But even like keto, like I did keto way before it was popular, like cut the gluten, because I had horrible gut issues. But then I started to notice like bad adrenal, like fatigue, and like it kind of went down the other end of the spectrum. And it's like another one of those things where it's super popular, and I see a lot of people are doing it, and they're like, yeah, I eat cheese and bacon all day. I'm like, all right, if that's sustainable for you. But that's kind of, it's just like, there's a lot of noise out there. So it's good that you're kind of
definitely
coming at it from a agnostic, holistic perspective.
Yeah. And I don't think, coming straight out of, college and NTP, I would not have the opinion that I do now. I was pretty hardcore, like, everyone needs some sort of paleo template, and that is the healthiest way. And I still believe that to an extent, but after working with so many people with different conditions and different issues, it's like, I can't just tell everyone that a paleo template for a diet is the ideal thing, because it isn't. It really depends. And I think it's, what you said, it's longevity, it's intention, it's nutrients, it's, what are you deficient in? What do you need more of? How are your energy levels? What types of imbalances are you dealing with? And addressing those and supporting them in the best way possible. And, sometimes keto is helpful. Sometimes vegan, vegetarian is helpful. Sometimes paleo is helpful. I like to think longevity wise, it's probably a mix of those things.
Right.
And there's no label on it. It's whatever works best for you. And that's how Stu and I eat. We don't eat gluten because it makes us both feel like shit. But outside of that, it's kind of like we just listen to how our bodies are feeling, and we know the way that our bodies communicate with us, whether that's like swelling or bloating or whatever. And we just...
Smoke signals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. Yep.
So how do you build successful businesses as a couple? Such a young couple, too.
Yeah, am I taking this one?
Take it.
All right.
You guys take it together. I need both your
That's a
perspective
loaded
on
question.
this because I know me, like I'm a guy, but you mentioned you get a lot of relationship questions from women, but I'm a traditional romantic dude, and I love the idea of like having that power partner to build a business with. And I think a lot of people that would listen to this, they're entrepreneurial, they're business minded, they feel this, very similar. And I think there's a lot of, you got to have good people to model after, and you guys definitely have that, which is great. But
thank you. Yeah,
thanks.
I think that's a big compliment, and it does take a lot of intention, I think, to do what we're doing and focus. And there are definitely things that we are sacrificing by building the lifestyle and the life that we are building right now. And we are very much both in the building phase, right? We are not anywhere near like a place where we could retire or take time off, even like in a major way. And that's okay with us. And so it kind of starts with a foundation of just that understanding. I mean, when we were dating, Kate, I guess we both got the very, very quick interpretation of the fact that, you're very focused, I'm very focused. We played it out in different ways, and we still do. Her personality is very different than mine in the way she approaches business. But the end, goal, yeah, we can dive into that too.
You're going to have to ask, how then?
Well,
only because I got that laugh over here.
Yeah. So basically,
finish your thought.
Oh, there's the wavelengths. It's just my voice.
Yeah.
Like
skyrocketing over here. So
yeah. Nobody's listening to this anyways. It's probably. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So very, very quickly,
new studio scares.
Right. Got to break the equipment in.
Or break the equipment because we're so angry at it.
Let's hopefully not.
No,
I don't
let's
know.
not do that.
I think it's working pretty well.
I think
it's going very well.
Good.
You guys are having fun?
You tell me. I'm having a great time.
This is great.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Kate is more of she approaches things way more laid back sense and like on her time, right? Like she's not going to do anything that someone asks her to do. She's going to do it because she wants to do it, and that's the only way that Kate approaches business.
It's kind of a problem sometimes.
Like I like to say, and we started the podcast off like I couldn't work for people. Like Kate definitely couldn't work for people. That's a spectrum. But it works for her. And for me, I'm more of like the put it on a list, get it done. I don't care what I'm doing in a given day. I don't have to feel like doing it. I just blow through the door and get whatever I need to done. And
you're the type A?
I'm the type A. Yeah.
Stu's like the extreme end of type A.
Yeah, I'm on a disc profile, if you're familiar, the whole personality test. I'm like a high D, so high dominant personality. I just like to, chop, move it. So, but it all.
Did you share your personality test before you got married?
Not really.
No, that wasn't. Yeah, did you clear the Myers-Briggs by me before?
No. Well, I mean, because we just, I don't know. We're like, that stuff's cool, but it's also like we just know ourselves very well.
Yeah, doesn't matter at all.
That we don't really, like, so many people are freaking crazy about the Enneagram right now, and I think I did it once and was like, what the hell is this thing? But I get asked about it all the time. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but it's blowing up right now.
It's another.
So
it's not a personality.
It's so hot right now.
It's not a personality test, but it is. I mean, like people don't want to say it is. It is. Anyway, so we just to kind of land the plane here. We definitely.
See?
I thought we were just taking off.
This is how we are. Stu's like, bring it back in, Kate. All right, let's get direct.
That's true. Playing out over audio right now, the different personalities. Yeah, we had these discussions early on, like, we've always done a vision board, for example, like together every year. And we've done that for a good 4 or 5 years now as a kind of a start of the year exercise.
It was more like goal setting. We did a vision board once and then like put it in the closet because it looked bad in our apartment.
What's the difference?
the difference between a vision board. So a vision board is kind of it's almost like a collage,
visual.
like it's visual, right? If I want a Tesla, I'm going to cut out a little magazine picture and put it on a,
You just still
piece of
Eric's.
poster. Yeah, or just drive Eric's. If you do a goal setting, like how we set goals is, what is it?
Split up into 4 quadrants.
Yeah.
So we've got family, fun, business, wealth, financial.
Yeah.
Financial, wealth,
Yep.
same thing.
Yep.
But we split it up into those 4 quadrants, and then we write in the present tense of what we anticipate happening for that year. So it's like family, I don't know. What did we write for family stuff this year? But we do it separately. So like we sit down, we'll put some jams on that we really like that's just getting us like pumped in the mood, whatever. I don't know. We listened to a bunch of Odessa this year when we did it. And
do you think the music influences your goals as you're coming up with them?
I think it's important to just like set the vibe. Like
Set
I
the
want
vibe.
to be like
Yeah.
excited and hopeful and like ready to goal plan and pumped up and ready to do that. I don't know.
I agree.
I like
100%.
it's
I'm
a
with ya.
vibe.
I dig it. I love it. I'm just wondering if you listen to something else, you're going to write down, like psychologically write down something else that you wouldn't otherwise.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Haven't tested it on myself, but could be.
So being on the same page, you guys together, you do this once a year or you do this consistently?
Once a year.
Once a year. Yeah.
Start-
We'll
start of the year.
Usually look at it a few times throughout the year just to like see where we're at. Probably like once. It's kind of like, and this is like quote unquote bad, but it works for us. And it's always like, oh shit, this is so awesome. By the end of the year is like, we'll write it once at the beginning of the year, maybe look at it. And then at the end of the year, when we're writing, for the next year, we'll look back at that and we're like, damn, we accomplished all of this stuff. But when we're writing the goals down, it's all in present tense. So for example, like we had, I don't know, what did I want? Like 200 clients enrolled in my group programs this year. And so instead of being like, I want to work with blah, 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 it was like, I will successfully help 200 people achieve optimal health by the end of this year through my group program. So it's like specific number, I will do this, or I enjoy
That's what we
doing
use.
this. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's kind of like putting the energy and the intention out there that like, this is already happening for me. It's like, we're working towards this. And so soon I will write those separately. And then when we're done writing them, we'll go like section by section and read them to each other. So some of those goals overlap when we get to like family and financial, but like work and other stuff is obviously different. But it's fun to be able to share that with one another because then we know like, how can I support you as you reach these goals? And it turns into other conversations of like just really awesome shit.
Yep. So being on the same page and manifesting. I think that's the 2 keys right there.
And communication. I think that's the biggest one too. Because when you have your own businesses, it's like, I'm home alone most of the time or at coffee shops and kind of in my own head and online, and Stu is outward all day long. And so Stu comes home and I'm like, oh my God, how are you doing? Let's talk. Like I can't wait to catch up and talk to someone because I've been in my own head and on my computer all day or on Instagram or whatever. And Stu comes home and he's like, don't talk to me. I'm going to sit down and like eat some food and wrap up these emails and then we can talk. And so I think...
So you communicate that at least.
Yes. Like learning, I mean, that's just one example, but there's a lot of different patterns that we have with our own businesses and like, I need time, I need space. Like I want to go out to eat tonight, even though we said we were going to cook or whatever those things are that we can accommodate and support each other is definitely a huge piece too.
Yep.
So what are some of the biggest challenges you have between the two of you?
I don't know.
I think it just comes down to when you do have a big drive like both of us do. I mean, we both like have big goals and dreams and things like that, and you always want to keep 2 things. One, grateful for where you are now in the moment, right? And then also keep like the big picture in mind and don't get wrapped up into the small stuff. And we can both put on that like tunnel vision and, just have kind of your head is so far into one rabbit hole or whatever that we help each other to bring it out. But there's times when you're so entrenched that like someone helping you try to bring that out is not always perceived as help. It's perceived as maybe
nitpicking.
Like, yeah, and we both do it. Don't give me that look. We both do it plenty.
Yeah, but I feel like I do that more to you. You give me more resistance. If you're like, hey, we need a break, I'm like, sweet, let's go grab a drink. Like, I'm always down to like, I don't know. But we struggle with different things. Like, I don't know. I think Stu's so determined and like so linear and type A that he sometimes struggles with pulling himself away from work because he could just work and work and work and work. Like, we've talked about this before, that if we weren't together and Stu wasn't dating anyone, like, his life would nonstop be work. 100%.
Even if I was
Sounds
dating
familiar.
Yeah.
So,
right.
but yeah, I mean, I'm having a hard time coming up with the things that we struggle with the most, because I think, you know, like, we definitely have our own patterns and our own struggles and stuff, but I think one thing I'm really proud of Stu and I for is just ever since we started dating, we have just had very consistent open communication, like, in the moment when it happens. So like, if, you know, I did something to Stu that makes him feel frustrated or invalidated, even if I wasn't intentionally doing that or I'm unaware of it, Stu will be like, hey, that was really rude, you know, I'm feeling this way, like, let's have a conversation around this and about this. And so I think having the open communication to put yourself in someone else's shoes and like see where they're at and take yourself out of the equation. And, you know, we're a team. You have to be a team, whether it's, you know, relationship building, businesses together, whatever. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. Like, do we get into arguments? Do we run into random stuff? Like, absolutely. Like, we're both crazy busy and always have stuff going on, and we get into arguments. But I think it's open communication that's like the biggest thing that allows us to be successful in our relationship and in business.
Mm-hmm. And how did you feel when Stu came in the door and was like, you know, I'm gonna start a group, just men. It's just dudes, okay? It's just gonna be dudes. We're gonna dress really well. We're gonna give back to the community, and we're gonna hang out and make everybody wear fancy pins.
Hashtag Denver Gents.
That's a question to you.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Denver Gents didn't really start that way. I mean, yes, of course. It was exactly like that.
No, he busted through the door. Right. That's how I imagined it.
In a 3-piece suit.
No, oh my God. Stu like didn't start buying nicer clothes until he met with Delroy.
Oh, I'm too close. See, that's me.
Yeah. But Stu didn't really start buying a lot of nice clothes until Delroy. And I mean, the whole way that Denver Gents started was kind of crazy. And, you know, Stu can jump into this a little bit too. But I mean, I was pumped about it. I was really confused at first. I was like, I mean, if anything, my initial reaction was like, what the fuck is this? Like, because it wasn't, it was not a clear vision.
That was so good. That was what I was hoping to hear. I was hoping, I didn't know if it was something you're like, yeah, or you're like, what? Like,
okay, well, the way that you described it, if Stu came home and was like, hey, you know, we got this great idea.
Yeah.
Like, if that was the scenario that you just explained, I would have been all over it. But that is not how it happened. How it happened was Stu and Delroy had an Instagram account where they were just featuring like well-dressed men in Denver. And then that turned into like, wow, there's a lot of guys in Denver that are following this. Like, we should put on an event. And so they put on their first event, Suits and Sushi. And they thought like 20 people would show up. And I think over the course of 2-3 hours, like 75 guys were in and out the door. And
a little over, yeah.
They were like, damn, like, we really like locked onto something. We should turn this into a group or something. And then that kind of was, you know, born into the nonprofit and giving back and what it is now. And they're still growing and still defining everything. So, I mean, at first I was like, it's a Facebook feature page and you're going to like, make it real life or Instagram.
It's Instagram. There is a Facebook page, but no, we focus on we don't do anything on that Facebook page.
Meant to say Instagram. But yeah, I mean, when it first started, I was like, what the fuck is this? But now, I mean, I'm all about it. It's pretty cool that Stu like got into real estate, started kicking ass, started a nonprofit, and started like a business networking group all in the same year. And I was just like, okay, here we go. Slow. Like, Stu and I had so many conversations where I was like, you do not need to be the president of a business networking group right now. Like, just focus on real estate. Why are you starting a nonprofit? Calm down. Like, just focus on real estate. Because I know that he will just spiral himself out of control.
What was the nonprofit?
The Denver Gents.
Oh, got it. Wait, so what was the networking group?
I have a business networking group that called BNI. That
you have a BNI chapter,
right? I started a chapter in late 2017, early 2018 here in Colorado. Yeah, in the tech center actually.
Oh,
yep. So South Metro area. We have about 30 members, and it's a killer group. We meet every Friday morning. It's one of my favorite parts of the week.
I think I've been down there before, down to that one, just like as a guest, maybe a couple years ago. It was probably ran by somebody else at that point.
Well, I started this from It was no one. It wasn't a chapter.
There's nobody in the
yeah,
tech.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just started a new one. There, you can have multiple in the same location.
Oh, got it.
So this is a brand new chapter. There are others in the tech center. You should come to ours though. Check it out.
I'm there. I'll come by.
Meet the folks, the fine folks. So yeah,
it's a pretty fun group.
That was all in the span of a year.
So did you start dressing Sly before Sly? I don't know. Slick before Denver Gents, or that kind of was inspiration because you dress like that almost every day now, right?
Yeah. So
was it all Delroy?
So
Delroy has inspired Stu to next level fashion.
Delroy and Isaac are my stylists.
Stu has started taking over my side of the closet. Literally,
she has little clothes, man.
Not
clothes
because
are big.
That is not true.
Suit hangers take up like 3 inches.
Some space. It's a true story.
Yep.
But
it's funny.
It's
funny that I got involved in the community too, because like you, I didn't. Our generation kind of lost that art of dressing up. It's cool that Del kind of brought in this culture into Denver. I really feel like he influenced the culture quite a bit.
Major.
And you, obviously. And it so happened last year, very beginning of last year, I was like, you know what? I want to increase my income. I want to increase my connections. I want to grow. I'm going to dress up every single day, at least wear a sports coat every single day. And my income doubled last year, and I made some of the most powerful business connections I've ever had in my life.
Damn.
I happened to, I would have looked at a group like Denver Gents and be like, look at these guys.
Yep. And we get that, and that's okay. And honestly, one of our core tenets is dressing well, but it's not for the sake of dressing well. And that's what people confuse, right? We're not throwing a suit on just to throw a suit on. It's because we want to treat ourselves as professionals, take ourselves seriously, get together and we are a professional group. We're not a networking group, but we're equal parts like professional social club and equal parts charity. And now the two are really merging in really cool ways. Denver Gents in 2019, I promise you, is going to be incredible to watch what happens because now we actually have the organizational capacity to be where we've always had a vision to grow. And I'll jump back a second because beautiful rendition of what Denver Gents is and where we are, but it definitely was. It was messy at first. We didn't have a defined path, but we always had a vision for what it could be, and it's still not there yet. I mean, it still has some legs to grow and some room to grow as far as these mentorship programs that we're rolling out and onboarding new members and our events and everything. So we have all of that stuff really calibrated now for success and for growth, and that will happen. This year will be a very pivotal, defining year for DG.
What's the main nonprofit that DG works with? The
Porter Billups Leadership Academy out of Regis University. And so that's Lonnie Porter, one of the most winningest basketball coaches of all time here out of Regis. He coached for, I think, 45 years. And he's in his late 70s now and killing it. And then Chauncey Billups. So those guys partnered on a charity out of Regis University that mentors at-risk youth from 4th grade to 12th grade and does a whole 3-week summer intensive camp that focuses on things you won't learn in the classroom, especially for these kids coming out of kind of a lesser upbringing.
So are you involved with Ladies of Denver now?
Not really. I mean, yes, but it hasn't really taken off in the way that Denver Gents has. I mean, I feel like at this point, Ladies of Denver will get invited to different things that Denver Gents is doing and photo shoots and promos and things like that that's going on in like Cherry Creek and other areas. And we just did a food drive. But Jade Jade and a few other women run that. Jade is Delroy's wife, so Stu's business partner's wife. But yeah, I also am like a huge tomboy at heart and have like not that many nice clothes. So when there are these like fancy events, like Stu will tell you, I get like so stressed out and I'm like, oh no, like please just go to the mall and pick something out for me. Like I don't even want to go shopping.
She doesn't like dressing up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. My experience going is I don't spend thousands of dollars on suits or anything. I just have my own style and mix and match different stuff and have a different style. And so I've found going to the events, it's been really interesting that not a lot of people are like, look down on you. Like everyone kind of wears something different, has their own style, and it's like
exactly.
People don't care if you're wearing a $20 shirt and like a $500 sports coat or you got a $5,000 suit on. Everyone there has been really genuinely genuine. That's the best.
Because it's
way I could
truthfully,
put it, probably.
it's not about what you wear. Obviously,
is it?
we are, there's a style component, but it's not going to be like a judgmental kind of characterization of who people are or what they're wearing. I mean, that is totally, if someone was doing that, I mean, they'd have no place in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I got the both of you here. What else should we touch on?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know either. She had some questions on the IG page.
Oh boy.
But
anything else you two together want to share? Because I know that you've done a lot of podcasts and you've done a few podcasts and stuff, right? So one of the things was you haven't so much had the chance to come together and do this. So is there anything specific you want to touch on? And yes, I think you should definitely bring those out because that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we could fire around on these Instagram questions.
Probably should.
At the end. I think, the only things coming to my mind are a lot of people through Caitlin's page, way more than my Instagram page, kind of wonder, how we live the lifestyle we do, and is it all kind of Instagram and social media can be so far from the truth, right? Like people can have this persona, and then when you meet them, they are totally different. We really value being the exact same people we are online as we are when you meet us in person, right?
You guys aren't at all. You're better.
Yes.
I mean, I'd rather swing in that direction than...
Yeah, and so there are things we don't share online, the part of our personal lives and everything, but at the same token, we're pretty authentic online. We have worked really hard to live the lifestyle we do. And we are fortunate at a young age to do basically, whatever we want. But at the same time, we try to stay humble, stay grounded to, who we are. And part of that is not letting, social dictate, expectate. I don't care what other people are doing at all. And neither does Kate. I only care about what I'm doing and what she's doing. And at the end of the day, what have we done for, to better ourselves and to better the world?
Your followings help both your businesses quite a bit, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think to what Stu said, I think a lot of people might hear that and think oh, wow, they're so selfish. And Stu and I are definitely selfish, 100%.
Yep.
But I strongly believe, and Stu does too, we've talked about this, that there has to be a time in your life, and I think that it should be when you're younger, in your 20s to 30s, when you're really figuring out who you are, what you really love to do, and just really honing in on your skill and your ability to help other people and work really hard and build your own business or whatever that is. Because if you don't take the time to do that, you're going to be 40s, 50s, 60s, regretting that you didn't do X, Y, Z, and then you're not feeling fulfilled. And Stu and I both very much believe that you have to fill your own cup first. And we're very much in that phase where we are very focused on ourselves and the two of us and our relationship and building a very strong foundation between the two of us and with our businesses so that when we do hit the next couple of years, we can be, an even better resource than we are now. Because, we get a lot of questions about business, but I quite frankly feel like I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing 90% of the time. So, I'm really excited for the time in the future when I can feel even more grounded. And, I don't think we'll ever feel like we've, quote unquote, arrived because you never do. But, there's a humbleness to that selfishness at the same time, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it's, in our minds, it's laying this really strong foundation in our relationship, in our businesses, and in other areas of our life so that when we do move forward, we can still, support the people around us, be a great resource, have, raise a great family, be really great parents, and whatever that might be in the future. So, yeah.
It's a hard pill for most people to swallow, right? Is the dynamic of be selfish so that you can actually help people more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to, again, you fill your own cup first, and you got to understand who you are before you go out and try to help others in any way that's actually meaningful, right? I think a lot of people throw the stamp on that, oh, I'm helping and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and they want their identity to be about others first, but they don't know themselves. And in our culture now, especially our collective generation, just look at the dating culture, right? No one's respectful. for the most part. No one really has kind of their own identity. They're all chasing after what other people think that they want to see. And
Right.
that's awful. We should all be ourselves out here, you know? I mean, and that's what attracts your soulmate, quote unquote, right? If you believe in that kind of thing. So it's we see that all the time in our peers, no matter their age, just because of our society, and we just believe that now in our chapter is the time to like really like fortify who we are right now.
Yeah.
So.
And that never ends. I think that's one thing too that I've had this conversation with girls and guys that are close friends of ours is, you know, a lot of people ask like, oh, what's the special sauce? How'd you guys meet each other or whatever? And I think that like, one, you really need to know yourself if you really want to be in a relationship that means a shit ton. Most people need to stop dating, get the hell out of the dating scene and go be by themselves for a while, a decent amount of time until they're very comfortable sitting alone for a couple of hours without getting antsy or feeling like they need to be on their phone or go call someone or whatever. And, you know, whatever that might look like for you, figuring out who you really are and what you actually value and the kind of person that you want to be. Because there's, you know, before Stu and I started dating, there was plenty of guys that I dated that were great, but it was also like I was confining a lot of myself in them and didn't know who I was. And I knew the kind of love and relationship that I wanted. And I was not the person yet that was like, you know, not that I wasn't worthy, but I wasn't in a space to receive that kind of love because I couldn't give it because I didn't know what that was because I couldn't give it to myself. And I think, you know, taking the time to know who I am and Stu doing the same, like we both have talked about, like dating history, life before we met each other. And I think that's an important thing to understand because it helps you appreciate the person that you're with. But like when Stu and I first started dating, probably for the first 3 months, I was like not into it. Did not want to date Stu. Not because I didn't like him.
Was it the girly stretches?
Yeah. Didn't have that booty yet.
It was the girly exercises.
What's with you and the boot? Is that your only thing you work on at the gym?
Only
Is just
thing.
your
Just isolation
Just
all day
booty.
long. Gotta go get a few more squats in today after this.
Good Lord.
He's actually been doing butt clenches the whole time he's sitting in the chair there.
Yeah. He's just awkwardly going up and down slowly in the chair
You
the
know,
whole time.
you know.
But I think that's just it's such an important piece of everything that you have to know yourself if you want to be in a relationship where you're loved and appreciated the way that you want to be and envision and
Right.
and that it's hard to reciprocate. It's hard to find someone, I think, in today's day and age too, because the dating scene's so jacked up that you got to be patient as hell.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's very insightful for the two of you. Do you want to read a couple of those questions and we'll wrap this thing up?
Why don't
boy.
you choose the
All
question?
right, I'll pick
you
a couple
pick.
then.
The ones that
Feed
are
it-
kind of like
feed them to
grayed
me and I'll
out.
pick the best.
I already answered.
Oh, okay.
And there's really vulgar
Should we answer
ones.
the ones that are already answered or the non-answered
Do
ones?
the non-answered ones.
All right, I'm going to
And
pick the most
no-
audacious questions I find here. So those
No
of you that are
dirty
those of you that are listening, Kate put the call out to her social media. Should I just scroll all the way to the very bottom?
It's up to you. Just
Whatever you-
bop around.
I'm
Fire
scared.
around here.
The further I go, the darker is it going to get.
Probably.
There's some fucked up ones, so just don't. Just
All right,
don't
all right.
ask those.
So Kate put the call out to her Instagram followers and got a bunch of. What was the question that you put out again?
I just said, you know, that we were doing this podcast, and if anybody had any questions about Stu and I, whether it's relationship, business, life, work, whatever, we'd be happy to answer it. That we were doing the podcast together. So this is what came out of it.
What kind / brand of toothbrush do you both use?
I don't even know.
I don't know what it's called. It's like
Yeah.
a recycled toothbrush from Natural Grocers that has.
No.
That has
I'm
these,
sorry. I'm
like-
just reading through these.
I told you, yeah. Don't ask some of those; they're horrible.
Oh, you might need to hook me up with some of these ladies here.
We'll do our best.
Okay, good. I was hoping you'd be able to.
I'll let you know.
Probably link me up, right? Okay. Don't know about the toothbrush. Sorry, guys. You have to just figure that one out later. Okay. About to get married in June. Any top newlywed relationship advice? And then there's a question mark, exclamation mark, and then like one of those faces and then heart.
The winky face with the tongue.
Yeah. Oh, you got it. Yeah, you got it.
Uh-huh.
That
I
was
got
good.
it. Nice work on that.
Thank
The
you. Thank
visual.
you, sir. I'm glad you caught on to that.
Go ahead.
Advice for newlyweds. Oh God, I don't know. I mean, marriage is rough. Marriage is very intentional. I think that like Stu and I dated for so long before we got engaged that I thought engagement wouldn't feel that different, but engagement felt very different, very intentional. And then I thought, you know, like, oh, we'd been engaged for like a year and a half before we got married, so I thought marriage wouldn't feel that different, but it did. So I would just be open to the seasons that marriage will bring. That it's a different level of seriousness to the relationship and intention, and just keeping those open communication channels.
Boom.
Yep. Mic drop.
Any other toothbrush related questions for us?
I'm trying to get. There's like one dude who asked all the inappropriate questions, so I'll ask you one out of all of them. Who farts more?
What did you say earlier? Depends on what we
the
eat.
dinner. Depends on the dinner. Yeah.
This is Mikey Dalla, isn't it?
We're exposing him.
Oh, I'm happy to expose him.
All right, here's a good one.
He's trying to expose us, so we'll flip it back on him.
That's right.
How did you know each other were? Is that right grammar?
I don't know.
The
you
one.
Tell me.
How do we know you're the one?
We're getting the blue light fade going on here.
How do we know we're the one? Because we had previous experiences that, kind of led us to understand what we wanted in a person. And then, we decided now was the time, and we made it happen. It's pretty, it sounds simplified, but that really is. You have to know what you want and trust that. And when it happens, make it happen. Timing might not always be on your side.
Yeah. I think to add to that, the biggest thing for me was that all the guys that I had dated before Stu, the more like circumstances that I had seen them in, situations, like the less I liked them. So for example, like, the two of us together would be really great, and then I'd see them get into an argument with their mom, and the way they reacted, I was like, oh, that was shitty. Or like after, I don't know, just a certain situation, I'd just be like, oh, I don't really like that part of their character, or like deeper parts of them would come out in different situations, and I was like, oh, I don't really like that. And with Stu, it was the opposite. It was like I was just waiting for something that Stu did that I didn't like.
Just waiting for me to fuck it up. Yeah. What are you going to do next?
Well, because I think as a woman, you're like, oh, I'm going to have to compromise at some capacity. And I would just encourage everyone, like, fuck that. You don't have to compromise what you're looking for in someone. Like, just wait, continue to manifest that and work on yourself and create space for that person to come into your life, because you can have all the things that you want. Like, is Stu perfect? No. Am I perfect? No. But like, we both hold space for one another to grow. And that's probably the most powerful thing. Like, we're going to be a million different people throughout our lifetimes, together and separately. And I think the most important thing is finding someone that you can grow with, right? Because it's stressful enough to be a single person trying to figure out who you are over the course of 80 years throughout your life, let alone having to do that with someone else. Like, you're not always going to be on the same page. You're not going to be growing at the same rate. There's going to be times that someone's lagging more than the other, or someone needs to be encouraged more than the other. And I think the most important thing is finding someone that you can grow with and hold space for.
Do one more?
Great.
All right, we'll do one more. I'm the podcast man. I suck at following through on it. Wait, first I got to know, Kate, who are these dudes' nudes on your phone here?
Oh my God.
In the Ask Me a Question section.
I suck at following through on ideas. Any tips for sticking to a project that you're passionate about?
If you can't stick to it, question if you're actually passionate about that project. I mean, there's always if you're passionate about it, you're just going to find a way. Like, if you're truly is like a part of you, and that's what I consider passion, is like, it's another arm on your body. Like, it just like, it's natural, it's easy, but it's also like, you got to work for it. And so if it ain't that, then it might not be a passion.
I'd agree with that.
But
your answer?
I agree, but I also am the kind of person that, like Sue mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, I'm very creative minded, very sporadic. Like, I'll do things when I feel like doing them. And I can be really passionate about something and halt on creating it or putting it out there for months, because I'm just like, I don't know. I think for me, it's like fear of success, of what that might bring me. And it freaks me out, because there's so many things in my mind that I'm like, I think about the big picture instead of the little strategic things of how to put this program together, how to put this group together, whatever that looks like. And I think sometimes, I get caught up in the details and stop myself from actually executing. So I think, just execute. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, if you are really passionate about something in the way that Stu's describing, but you find yourself with those creative blocks and those energetic blocks, like, just start somewhere. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just start doing something, and then you at least have something to build off of. Like, for me, it's just that first initial outline or whatever, like, that I'm sitting down and putting pen to paper, putting my hands on my keyboard, that shit starts happening.
Just got to start taking action on it.
Yep.
Guys, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate the two of you.
Definitely. Lots of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
grateful
been
we're
fun.
able to do this together. Where can people get a hold of you? Contact you? Find you? Where can they find you? Follow you? Fall in love with you?
Definitely the IG.
Check out Stu's booty pics.
Only
Oh my
booty pics.
God.
Yep. So IG at Stuart Crowell, and that's basically the best way to get a hold of me.
Cool.
Yep. Same here. Instagram, WhatKate8. It's CAIT for the Kate. No spaces, all one word. Also, whatkate8.com is my blog.
What kid 8?
WhatKate8.
Oh, like ATE.
ATE.
Okay.
Yep. WHAT.
That could have been confusing.
CAIT.
People are going to find themselves on some other random page. Like, who is this person?
Okay,
Who
8
the
ghost
hell?
account.
Yeah.
2 8s.
2 8s.
Yep.
Great, guys. Well, appreciate it. Hey, those of you still listening, appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and we'll see you on the other side.
Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor.